to another edition of the CrossFit Games Update Show. I'm Sean Woodland with Marquez and Pat Sherwood. We talked about the women's side of the house in 16.1 yesterday. Today we focus on the men, and where the women's leaderboard, at least at the top 10 was concerned, there was some order there, right? You look at the men's leaderboard, a little bit of order maybe at the top, but then chaos behind it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to me because along with the 7 minutes of burpees workout from 2012, this appears as one of the most mentally tough as well as physically tough workouts that we've seen in a while. And mentally tough is something I associate with those top men, so it's very surprising to see them kind of fall this far.
That women's leaderboard, it was nice, it was tidy.
Right.
You know, we had 4 champions in the top 10. It's like we stuffed the men's champions into a shotgun and just scattered them across the first 7 pages of the leaderboard. So we need to see how weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5 shape
Exactly. It is only week 1, so we don't make too big of a deal of this. But when you look at the top 10 standings, there are a lot of unfamiliar names. But there is a name that you would think would be at the top of the leaderboard on this one, and that is Josh Bridges. He dominates 365 reps. He wins by 15 over both Jacob Hepner and Noah Olson, and then Yonakoski sits there in 4th. Then after that, we'll get to these guys in a second. Just a lot of names that I don't know a lot of people know. We'll dive into that here in a minute. But Josh Bridges gets the win despite not really having much of a plan.
To tell you the truth, I didn't have a strategy. I did it Friday morning, and I literally said to myself, just go as hard as you can. When Dave announced the workout, I was like, all it is a gut check. It's like who's gonna go the longest, like the hardest. So I just I put my cap down and kept moving.
Josh Bridges misses the games last year. I know that hasn't been sitting well with him. It's been stewing for a while, and now it looks like, at least early on here, this guy's on a mission.
You know, just by the mere fact that you mentioned that he missed qualification, you're on a list right now. You're in a small black book, and you don't want to be there. Josh Bridges is a ferocious competitor. Yes, didn't make the games last year. He's furious about it. But he also, for the last 7 years, has been an active duty Navy SEAL, traveling all around the world, living out of, a suitcase and whatnot. Recently a civilian. He can focus a whole heck of a lot more on training, organize his sleep, his nutrition, and he is taking this new lifestyle change in taking full advantage of it to make 2016 his year to be back in full effect.
Now, Tommy, the 3 guys who are right behind him, Jacob Hepner, Noah Olson, and Yonakoski, not surprising that we see them up towards the top in this workout.
No, and really they're picking up where they left off at last year's games, where they sat at 8th, 9th, and 10th respectively, so they're kind of used to being clumped together on the leaderboard. If you think about the most prominent workout from last year's games that kind of fits this mold, it would have been Murph. And if you look at how they finished, where Olson was 3rd, Koski was 5th, Hepner was 6th. So these are workouts that these guys traditionally excel at. So I'm not surprised at all that they're up in the top 10. And once again, they're kind of the names we're throwing around with this type of workout.
1 through 4 is where the familiar names end. Then you look at 5 through 10, and we had to look a lot of these guys up because they're not familiar names as far as the games are concerned. You have Luke Schaefer, Andrew Kiekler, Mitch Wagner, Kyle Frankenfeld, Zachary Moran, and Jeffrey Lawrence. I know it's week 1, and throughout the Open you see a lot of these sort of, and I don't want to say anomalies because I think that's taking away from their performance, but you see guys we're not used to seeing pop into the top 10. Out of these 5, who has a chance to maybe stay there now for the rest of the Open?
I think it's Andrew Kiekler. I think he has a little bit.
We're going to hold you to this.
Yeah, and I think he has a little bit more of a storied past in terms of his performances in the Open. Take a look at last year. He was 108th worldwide in the Open. That's nothing to shake a stick at, and that included a top 10 finish worldwide in 15.1. Flash forward to regionals. He's at the Central Regional. He's one of only a handful of guys to actually finish that Event 3 just nasty chipper. He actually finished just ahead of Hepner, which is no coincidence because now he's actually with Hepner as a training partner every single day, training out of Cobra Command CrossFit, which is
That's
awesome,
a great name.
awesome name, by the way. And so I think he's taken a guy like Hepner, as a training partner to kind of fine-tune the things that maybe he wasn't as good at, on top of being very good at this long time domain, and I think he has some staying power.
Yeah, we will find out if we're going to learn any more about these guys, or if this is sort of going to be a one and done for some of these unfamiliar names. Now, as far as the big names are concerned that you didn't see in the top 10, let's show you where they sit right now, and it's Matt Fraser who is in the lead out of these 4 that we're showing you. He's 36. He had 324 reps. Rich Froning and Scott Panchik are tied at 320. And then how about this? Ben Smith, 116th in the world. He's not even the fittest guy in his family on this workout. His younger brother beat him 312 reps. So again, week 1, these guys are going to make a run, into a top 10. And again, it's all about getting to the regionals for them. But is there one name on there where you looked at and you said, that's kind of surprising?
Anyone in that list that you mentioned can fall into that category, but again, yes, week 1, but Ben Smith in 116th place, that's a little disconcerting. It's just, you never know with Ben, right? Because he doesn't, I don't say he doesn't so much care, but his finish in the Open or even regionals isn't his goal. His goal is just to get to the games. So I know he put his heart into it, but it just 116 really caught me off guard.
Yeah, and especially for looking at historical stats and how eventual CrossFit Games champions do in the Open, the worst event finish ever in an Open workout for an eventual champion for men was 83rd, and that was Ben last year.
Okay.
So if he wants to
Raising
come
the bar
back
himself.
and repeat, he's really kind of stretching that stat out to its biggest capacity there.
Right.
Other than that, I think those other guys are in pretty good shape. You look at the names ahead of them; not all of those guys are going to be at the game. So
Let's now focus on the rest of the leaderboard and some names that maybe surprised you in a positive way.
I tell you what, Paul Tremblay, huge fan of this guy. He didn't make it to the games last year, unfortunately. He was 7th at the East Regionals, but he is just a big corn-fed Canadian that loves heavy barbells. He's stupid strong, knew that he needed to work on engine, and now we have a 20-minute time domain, a light barbell, burpees, and chest to bar pull-ups, and he puts out 331 reps, and that score is good enough to put him 11th worldwide. He impressed the heck out of me.
And for me, as the South Regional champion from last year, it's Roy Gamboa. And he's 43rd worldwide, which is great for him because really, you look at him as an athlete, he's not a guy we'd necessarily look at and say, he does well in the endurance type events. Right. Actually, he does pretty poorly in them. 33rd in Murph last year, 33rd in Pier Paddle. 2 years ago in the 50s chipper, a 26th place, which what knocked him out of contention to go to the games. So to see him show up and do well in this particular workout is really a nice surprise from him, and you hope it continues throughout the rest of the season.
Let's move over to the Masters category, and I got to give my sometimes broadcast partner some props here. Bill Grundler turns in the top scorer in the 45 to 49-year-old division, 278 reps. But then if you look just a couple spots behind him, his younger brother, James, 262. So you have first and fourth. I don't think the Grundler brothers are human. I think they were just genetically engineered for the purpose of doing CrossFit because that's incredible.
We have to brag on Bill. He's part of the team here. We've got to give him some shout out. But yes, the more impressive story, even though he's behind Bill on the leaderboard, I've got to go that, James, because what's shocking about him, 4th in his division, but he hasn't been doing CrossFit a fraction of the time
few years.
that Bill has. So who knows what this guy's capacity is.
And he qualified for the games last year, and we could have the first set of siblings to compete in the same division in Masters. If one is good, then 2 is better, and I guess that holds true for the Grundler brothers.
They both competed last year, but in different age groups, and I think there's a good chance that we could see them now competing in the same age groups. Well, 16.1 was a lot of fun for both the men and the women. Now we get to look forward to 16.2, and it's going to be 2 men who will be throwing down to that. Dan Bailey, Bjorn Gudmundsson from a garage in an as yet to be released
secret
location. We are going to have the cool down show again. If you want to be part of that, get in now. You can tweet your questions to @CrossFit Games. Use the hashtag #CoolDownShow, and you might get your question answered by either Dave Castro, Roy McKernan, or either Dan Bailey or Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. That's going to do it for us for today. For Tommy Marquez and Pat Sherwood, I'm Sean Woodland. Time to start thinking about 16.2 now.
Oh, yeah.